What is going on, everybody? Voidlego here, back for a brand new episode of Higurashi When They Cry. Last time we're on, as Shion, we met this new boy called Kechi Marabara, and we pretty much went through the first half of Chapter 2, but from Shion's point of perspective, such as, us going to the ritual storehouse of Takano, Kechi, and Tomoki. And speaking of the storehouse, you guys reminded me that Kechi never heard the swamming sound. It was Tomoki that heard the swamming sound. Only Tomoki and Shion heard the swamming sound. So it can't be an illusion then. It can't be. So the question is now, why didn't Kechi or Takano hear it? Takano, I'm a bit, maybe she heard it. She could be, feign ignorance. I don't 100% trust her as a, trustworthy source. But why didn't Kechi hear it at all? But Shion and Tomoki instead heard it. And Tomoki was on the outside of the building. So, well, why would they hear that? But yeah, let's get right into it. Let's go check out these tips. Page 172. Oh boy. That underground torture room is officially called the Underground Ritual Storehouse. So do torture room and ritual storehouse mean the same thing? According to Takano-san's theory, bloody rituals including Wanagagashi have been passed down among the three families even after the Meiji era. The rituals are always ready to be performed. Their form of worship always revolved around torture, so Himizawa's history involved a great deal of human slaughter. Takano-san's theory is correct. The underground storehouse at the Sonozaki house looked well maintained. Takano-san is right about that too. Since the Sonozaki family and the Furude family both have ritual storehouses, the Kimiroshi family must have one too. After all, these ancient and brutal customs are still handed down through the generations. They should remain armed with the knowledge that occult events are still secretly being performed in this cursed village. Yeah, it's pretty true. It's pretty true. Now, the question is, where's the Kimiroshi torture room? Because most likely the Furude torture room is underneath the ritual storehouse, and they also have a dungeon, like the Sonozakis, maybe. The sanctity of the ritual storehouse is one of the most prominent elements in the worship of Oshiro-sama. Of course, I knew that since I'm originally from Himizawa, but violating that sanctity is actually a more serious problem than I thought. Takano-san's research shows that the history of the ritual storehouse goes way back. The ritual implements within have long been viewed as invaluable objects, which is why it was strictly forbidden to enter. Takano-san's theory says that the Wanagagashi was once a public execution, performed to stabilize the reign of the three families rather than a purely religious ritual. If so, the ritual should hardly be called sacred. Under those circumstances, the implements should have been despised as symbols of hatred and fear. When instruments of fear are too visible, it only creates a reign of terror. But keep them as hidden as possible and they gain divinity. Many said they would become tainted if the layman touched them. The only reason for that was to preserve their false prestige through secrecy, since they would lose their sanctity if revealed before the common folk. In other words, the true identity of the ritual storehouse's sacredness was fear. That was the true emotion ruling over this village. Yeah, I ain't wrong about that. Before I continue on, I just recently watched, how do you pronounce it? Orui the Curse? That's probably not how you pronounce it. Fantastic movie. Really great found footage movie. It definitely, if you like the supernatural elements and like bits of like village folklore type of horror to Higurashi, go check out Oreo. No, not Oreo. can't remember the title. Just look up The Curse, like Japanese horror The Curse, because it's a great found footage movie, and definitely reminded me a lot of Higurashi. You know, it came out in 2005, so like really around the same time as when the Higurashi chapters are coming out too. Interesting coincidence. Anyway. The reason why Takano-san and Tomoki-san were cursed is because they broke into the ritual storehouse. I don't know how the villagers found out about it. Okay, here a couple days later. Maybe somebody was watching. Maybe there was an anti-thief alarm. Either way, our intrusion must have been reported to the highest level of the curse system. That's because, considering the distance between the village and the site where Takano-san's body was found, she must have been killed right after we came out of the ritual storehouse. It was done very quickly. It's possible that a special assassination team exists for this purpose, or that the plan had been set up a long time ago. They might have been secret agents of the Sonozaki family, but the latter sounds more valid. But if so, who would have been the victim if nobody broke into the ritual storehouse? Good question. We could have food. Anyway, let us continue. My relatives gathered at the Sonozaki house after the festival to have a little party. I mingled with my uncles and had fun. I was trying to get rid of my eerie memories of the ritual storehouse. Meon was acting as a successor, so I tried to stay away from her. I'm sure she would feel weird if I talked to her in a formal way. In consideration of the hag's old age, we ended the party around 11 p.m. We all helped to clean up, with the women washing the dishes in the kitchen, and the men folding the tables and putting them away in the storeroom. It only took about 30 minutes, then everyone left one after another. By then, Meon was no longer acting as the Sonozaki successor and was back to being her normal self. Maybe I overexerted a little. I was relying on the tatami for... Also, before I continue, someone had described Meon as a sort of peacemaker, or a peacekeeper, as she is willing to give up things she cares about in order for the greater good. And I feel like that's a very, like, interesting reading into her character. It is very much... Meon does give up a lot of things. She gives up kind of her childhood. Her... Yeah, innocence? I don't know. Being a kid in order to become the successor of the Sonozaki family, you know. In place of having fun with kids, it's instead learning the history of Himizawa and becoming a leader, becoming a leader of a huge, influential family, making tough decisions. And I guess, you know, that's like for any leader in history, they have to... In order to become a great leader, you must give up things you hold dear in order to help the many, you know. So it's a very interesting reading. It very much leans into that, into the way I described her, which was her very much being a leader by, you know, first being the successor to the Sonozaki family, and also being the leader of the club. She has a lot of leader traits, but she is very much still human. You know, she still loves Kechi, and she has moments when she breaks, you know, even beyond that cold facade as the successor, she still cares about Shion. Just, she can't do it in front of Oryu or the family because she'll get fucked over, as we saw, because she also got her nails chipped off for, you know, trying to get Shion off the hook, pretty much, or have less of a punishment. So it's very, her character is very interesting. Kasai asked me if I could get in the car, so I told him I'd rather not move anymore.
おねえ、今日泊まってってもいい？ここで寝ちゃいたい。バッチャに見つかると怒られるよ。で、それよりシオン、明日は学校じゃないの？明日は開校記念日だからいいの。あんたの学校、開校記念日って年に何回あるわけ？まあ、いっか。じゃあ、笠井さん。シオンは今夜はうちで預かります。
わかりました。ではよろしくお願いいたします。
ほら、シオン起きて。ここで寝てるとバッチャに怒られるって。ほら、肩を貸すから奥に行こう。
Come on, don't sweep in the podworm.
私の布団貸してあげるから。ありりー、おねー。
My alter ego told me that I'm in a demon's stomach. I wouldn't have woken up if I hadn't heard that voice. But when I stop, he always walks one extra step. I might not have woken up at all. I didn't remember much after that. I was probably brought to Meon's room and immediately crawled into the futon. After a while, Meon got her futon ready next to mine, turned the lights off, and went to sleep. At least that's what I thought. I got up and turned the lights on. Meon's futon was empty. The futon felt cold. Meon must have left it a while ago. Did she go to the bathroom? No, the closest bathroom was right there down the hallway. The light in the bathroom was off. Where did she go? Ticking of the clock was loud and annoying in this silence. The ants pointed to a little before 3 a.m. I was left alone all of a sudden in this late night. I felt the eeriness of the ritual storehouse coming back to me after almost managing to forget it in the ruckus earlier. I tried to sense my surroundings in this house. There shouldn't be an eerie atmosphere, strange noises, or footsteps. I stepped out into the freezing cold hallway to look for Meon. When I did, I immediately noticed light coming from one of the nearby rooms. That room belonged to the hag. The hag went to sleep early and woke up early. She was very strict about her bedtime, so it was strange to see her right on in the middle of the night. I could hear voices too. Those voices belonged to the hag, and Meon creeped up to the room and listened to their conversation. Since it was the middle of the night, I could hear their words very clearly.
しゃあもねえやんな。あんの赤いのもちょい出張りすぎやったんや。
まあね。お社様のお怒りに触れたんだから仕方ないしね。
Meon's voice sounded as cold as the one I heard down in the torture room. I held my breath.
警察は調べとっちゅうとろんが、すっとろん間違いなあかんねん。
多分ね。高野さんだろうね。
Oh. My heart almost stopped. Osho-sama got angry. The police are investigating. It's probably Takano-san. What day was it today? Those words told me that something was happening. My teeth started to clatter. I desperately tried to stop at them. It felt like my body was swelling up suddenly. Could no longer hear as well. Calm down, breathe. Listen more carefully. According to Meon and the hag's conversation, another incident definitely took place. The victims were Takano-san and Tomiki-san. From what I could tell, both Meon and the hag thought it made sense that whatever happened to them. No. I needed to think more calmly. They did say they deserved it for making Osho-sama angry. Did they say Takano-san and Tomoki-san made Osho-sama angry? How did they make Osho-sama angry? They knew. My body started to shake. They knew we were stuck into the ritual storehouse. Then would that mean Kechi and I were also subject to Osho-sama's curse? Suddenly, a phone rang. The phone was by the front door. The front door was opposite the hag's room, farther down the hall. The ringing echoed throughout the long hallway. It sounded so eerie, almost like it was coming from hell, Kechi. That was when I felt someone behind me. Of course, there was nobody there when I turned around, but there was someone there a moment ago. Didn't know if it was Satoshi-kun. Didn't sense any emotion, so I couldn't tell. I also didn't know how long it had been there. It was as if that somebody was watching me listen in on their conversation. That was the feeling I got. It couldn't be Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun would never be that intimidating or scary. My mind turned all red like it was suffused with blood.
みーちゃんにはない？ひたひたと。
These goddamn footsteps, man.
ずっと足音がついてきて、夜は枕元にまで立たれて見下ろされる経験。
I remembered what Rena Rigu had said on that rainy day.
そうならばみーちゃんは大丈夫。お社様には怒られない。
If Osho-sama wasn't angry, nobody would follow me. So what did this mean? Ever since we snuck into the shrine storage, something has been following me? What is it? Calm down, calm down. That's right, Rena wasn't talking about me. She was talking about Satoshi-kun. That's what happened to Satoshi-kun.
サトシ君が体験していることは、すべてお社様のたたりの前触れなの。
That's right, that's why he encountered the curse of Osho-sama.
誰かが遠くからじっと伺っている。誰かがずっとつけてくる。
A creepy feeling crawled up and spread across my back.
誰かがいつも自分のすぐ後ろから見ている。やがて足音は常に自分とずれて一つ余計に聞こえるようになるの。
I swallowed wildly. It's almost as though Rena Rigu was predicting what would happen to me. Had Rena been talking about Satoshi-kun back then? Or had she actually been talking about me?
やがて後ろのそれは自分の家の中にまでついてくるようになる。そしてお布団に入って明かりを消してもずっと枕元から見下ろしてるの。ただただ黙ってじーっと。
I knew by now that there was no mistake. No matter how I looked at it, she had been talking about me. Yes, me. It had been about me. The curse of Osho-sama. What is the curse of Osho-sama? That was when I actually felt something for real. Someone grabbed my collar. No voice came out. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was open and close my mouth as if something was stuck in my throat. It was Meon. She looked even colder than how she looked in the underground torture room. It only made sense that she'd come out into the hallway to answer the phone. I tried to come up with an excuse. However, the way Meon looked at me was so cold. Even if I really had run into her by accident, I could tell by the look in her eyes that she wouldn't believe me. I felt cold sweat all over my body. I couldn't even move my fingers.
ごめん。
I apologized. Could have said something to get myself out of the situation, but the apology came out first. But Meon didn't appear to hear me. She walked to the front door, still holding my collar. The phone was still ringing. Normal person doesn't usually let a phone ring so long at this time of night. The phone call itself didn't seem real to me. Meon picked up the phone.
ミオンです。そうですか。わかりました。そちらの対応はよろしくお願いします。
Okay, not catchy, not catchy.
それから一切の口封じをよろしくお願いします。ええ。では。
Meon put down the phone after a short conversation. What did you mean, make sure nobody talks about this? Who called anyway? Meon put her forehead to mine and spoke to me.
聞いてた?
Which conversation was she asking me about? Well, she had to be talking about the one with the hag. If I said yes, what would happen to me?
何のことかわかんない。
Meon pulled my collar, pressed her nose on mine, and continued to speak.
聞こえた通りです。富武さんと高野さんがお社様のたたりに遭われました。本当にお気の毒なことです。
It was like I was talking to myself in a mirror, but what I was saying in the mirror was ever so cold.
おねお社様のたたりって何です？富武さんは自らの手で喉をかきむしってお亡くなりになりました。高野さんは遠くの山奥でドラム缶に詰められて焼き殺されたそうで、実にお気の毒です。
Tomiki-san clawed at his own throat until he died? What? Takano-san was burnt to death in an oil drum? What? I felt something furry crawl up my spine. It felt like my stomach was turning upside down. Didn't feel any strength in my legs. If Meon let go of my collar, I'd probably collapse on the spot.
なんでそんな死に方したのかな。わかりませんか、シオン。
I'm asking you because I don't know.
わかんないよ。理由なんて一つしかないじゃないですか。
Please don't talk as if I already know the answer.
何の理由かな。
My heart was pounding. I felt that my next breath would be so bloody and hot that I'd choke on it.
そんなこともわかんないのですか。
It's because they made Oshio-sama angry. The first year as the manager of the damn construction site. The second year as the traders to the village. The third year as the pacifist. The fourth year as the relatives of the traders. I'd always thought the victims were people who had something to do with the damn conflict. Since I didn't do anything against the village during the damn conflict, I assumed I was safe. I should have known. I should have known everything would be the curse of Oshio-sama. I knew Oshio-sama's anger was the curse of Oshio-sama. I knew Oshio-sama would get angry if I snuck into the ritual storehouse. But since I wasn't held responsible in any way for the damn conflict, I never thought I would be a victim of the curse. Did I even think there would be an incident in the 5th year? Did I ever think that I'd be the victim of that 5th year incident? Tomiki-san snuck into the storehouse and he crawled at his own throat until he died. Takano-san was burned to death in an oil drum. It must be a lie. It couldn't be true. Even if it was forbidden, it was just a space for storing some old torture implements. How could they be killed for just sneaking in there? Especially in such gruesome ways. But I thought about it again and realized that those people were absolutely capable of doing things like that. The main Sonozaki family was capable of it. The Sonozaki family had been pulling the strings behind a series of mysterious deaths. They could do it. The Sonozaki family even kidnapped the grandson of the Minister of Construction during the damn conflict. They could do it. The Sonozaki family made Satoshi-kun disappear completely. They could do it. Meon leaned against me before falling onto the cold hallway floor. She collapsed rather violently. I usually didn't go to sleep with my stun gun, but since I was too tired and sleepy to get ready for bed, I still had it on me. I had my stun gun on me. I finally understood. I didn't know who killed them exactly, whose idea it was, or who ordered it. I didn't even know who was actually involved, but Meon the hag knew everything. Satoshi-kun, now I finally know. Now I know what I need to do. I will settle the score for you, Satoshi-kun. I will avenge you, Satoshi-kun. I won't be killed like you, Satoshi-kun. I walked into the hag's room. She was sitting up to take some medicine. Her back was turned to me. Meon and I are twins. If I acted like her, the hag wouldn't notice the difference. I didn't think she ever suspected me. I put my stun gun to her neck and pulled the trigger. I heard an indescribable electrical sound and the hag's lights went out. She fell in a twisted position. I didn't know how long it would take a person to regain their freedom of movement after getting knocked out with a stun gun, so I had to restrain them both before they woke back up. I was unbelievably calm. The key to the underground torture room was in the forbidden drawer that only the head of the family can access. Meon had told me about this once. I never looked for the drawer before, but I found it exactly where I thought it would be. The key was on a keychain with several of its sisters. Each key had a little plaque on it that said what it was used for. They were all in Meon's handwriting. She was an idiot for being so conscientious, but sure helped me out. I put the keychain in my pocket and headed to the outdoor storeroom to find a cart. I found a large flashlight there as well. There was a strap on the flashlight so I could put it on my shoulder. That way I'd have both hands free to carry Meon and the hag. I loaded Meon and then our grandmother onto the cart and carried them to the underground torture room. Oh, motherfucker, I was right. I was prepared to use the stun gun again if they woke up while I was working, but it was more powerful than I imagined and the hag showed no signs of waking. This was the stun gun Kansai specifically ordered for me when I told him I wanted a powerful one. I remembered him telling me that it was an illegally modified stun gun and that I should never use it just for fun. I used my flashlight to find the light switch. I found it easily and turned it on. All the lights went on in the basement. Although there was now illumination, it was very dim. I moved quickly so as to finish what I needed to do before they woke up. I decided to put Meon in a cell beyond the torture room. The lights in the torture room were so bright that it was like daylight. There was a door there. I was very certain the cells were on the other side of the door. The proper key was here. The keys made a tinkling sound. I felt cold air coming in through the gap in the door. There must be a huge opening on the other side. I opened the door and I saw nothing but darkness. I felt alongside the wall to find a light switch. I turned the switch on and the light bulbs lit up, revealing a huge rocky cave. It didn't look like a natural cave. It looked more like an air-raid shelter. There were several hollow openings with bars across them. Those were the cells. I walked up to the closest cell and checked to see if it was strong enough to confine her. I pushed and pulled on the bars. I rammed against them with all my weight and decided they were perfectly sturdy. This was secure enough to be called a cell. I opened the lock and carried Meon in. I wasn't particularly strong, just average. I never thought I was strong enough to carry a whole person. But now I didn't need to pretend to be weak. I could easily lift and drag our bodies. I put Meon in the cell. She seemed to moan a little. Didn't need to check to make sure the effect my stun gun was wearing off. I closed the bars and turned the key in the lock. Then I ran to the hag, who I must have been starting to wake up too. Fortunately, there was no sign of her regaining consciousness. Maybe the difference in age had something to do with it. I looked for a table to restrain her on. I found a wheelchair with restraints for the hands and feet. I put the hag in it. Of course she didn't resist, but her dead weight made it seem like she was a huge French doll, but one made of flesh. I put her hands on the armrests and restrained them at the wrists with the metal wings and hinges. I did the same with her feet. This must have been a wheelchair specifically remodeled to restrain a person. Other than the restraints, it was a regular wheelchair. I waited for the hag to wake up. I had so many things I wanted to ask her. I didn't think she'd answer honestly, but I had plenty of tools to make her talk. I was in no rush, and the hag and her concerned relatives took care of the problem. That was how it worked in the Sonozaki family. She was the leader of the family, so all the information they gathered would make its way to her. She must know everything that happened in Himisawa, including the curse of Oshiro-sama. I heard a noise from the cell. Meon must have woken up before the hag did. Speaking of the hag, she didn't seem like she was about to wake up anytime soon, but she was restrained even if she did, so I had no need to fear. I left the hag there and headed for the cell.
Shion, これは何の真似ですか?
She talked like the successor, but she also sounded frightened. She obviously understood the situation she was in right now.
おはよう、ミオン。まさか自分が閉じ込められることになるとは思わなかった？園崎家当主代行として命じます。ここを開けな。声色に一つ凄みが欠けますね。当主様はもっと傲慢な言い方をしなきゃね。もっともそういう言い方ができたとしても、今のあんたは滑稽なだけなんだけどさ。
There is nothing funny about it, but I wanted to imitate him, Meon. My laughter echoed throughout the cave. It was artificial and meaningless laughter. I heard it over and over as it echoed. It sounded as if I wasn't the only one laughing. Couldn't stand it, so I stopped. Silence filled the air. That silence almost hurt my ears, so I started to speak.
富武さんと高野さんが今年の犠牲になるとはね、思わなかった。高野さんのドラム缶に詰めて焼き殺したってのもなかなかやるね。ま、あの人はそういう死に方を自分で希望してたっぽいからね。結構満足してるかもよ。
Meon didn't say anything. She just stared at me to see how I proceed.
富武さんの自分で自分の喉を引き裂いたってのは何？意識をおかしくさせるような怪しいお薬でも注射したの？それともそういう死に方に見せるような道具でもあるわけ？
Meon didn't reply. I was smiling broadly but I became impatient when we kicked the bars. It made a violent noise. Meon jumped as if she was kicked directly.
返事がないと退屈です。私を怒らせるとどんな得が？私が知るわけないでしょう。
Meon finally replied. She was audacious, but at the same time sounded pitiful.
ねえ、ミオン。次期当主様。ここまで来ちゃったんだから教えてくださいな。
I had just too many things I wanted to ask her. I wanted to ask her about me, about the incident, about the curse, about Satoshi-kun. I didn't even know where to start. Before I asked her about those, I asked her one other thing.
私に対して反抗的な態度をとっても何の得にもならないこと、理解してますよね。
Meon glared at me silently. Because we were twins, I knew that was just a bluff.
もうここまでやっちゃった以上、私も引っ込みがつかないんで。お姉も私に容赦とか躊躇とかそういうものをあまり期待しない方がいいかもです。
Meon must have been feeling the cold sweat in her face. Although the light was dim, I could tell she was frightened.
じゃあ聞くよ。ひなみ沢村連続開始事件、通称お社様のたたり。これってどういう意味があるの？やっぱりダム戦争のけじめってやつ？私は多分そうだと思ってる。
Think? Meon sounded a little confused, but she answered. I felt satisfaction now that we were communicating. I continued with a smile.
思ってるって言い方が少し頼りないね。そのあたりの事情は詳しくないの？シオンだって分かってるでしょ。次期当主なんてバッチャの取り次ぎに過ぎないよ。
Yeah, right.
その当主様と意思を疎通させて以心伝心なのが次期当主様の役目でしょ。取り次ぎに過ぎないなんて信じると思う？いつも身近にいる私だってたまにバッチャが何を考えてるのかわからない時があるもん。何でもかんでも私が理解してるわけじゃない。じゃあお社様のたたりってのはあいつが全部独断で決めてるわけなんだ。次期当主様と相談して決めてるのかと思ったよ。やばい話は全部バッチャが一人で決めてる。 私なんか預かり知る余地もない。でもばあさんの独断だとしたって、あいつはあんたを介してやり取りしてるわけでしょ。そのあんたが何も知らないなんてあるはず。違うよ、私なんかを介していない。私にだってよくわからないんだけど、私が陽の部分を取り継いでるとしたら、陰の部分を取り継いでる誰かがいると思う。誰？その影の部分の取り継ぎって。知らない。誰かを招いて話してるとことか電話をしているとことか見たことない？強いて言えば、毎年お社様のたたりの時期になると連絡量がどっと増える相手ね。わかんない。心当たりなんかないよ。
Meon shook her head.
まあいいや。じゃあ質問を変えるね。今年のたたりの富武さんと高野さんはダム戦争に直接関係してないのに、なぜ犠牲に選ばれたの？やっぱり西宮殿に忍び込んだから？
As soon as Meon heard the words ritual storehouse, her expression shifted.
西宮殿に？フルテ神社の西宮殿を犯したの？ありゃ、
You didn't know?
知ってるとばかり。
Huh.
そんなことをしたらバカ、当然だよ。
Interesting. Okay. Meon muttered bitterly while shaking her head repeatedly. Meon's reaction made me realize the true meaning of the forbidden storehouse for ritual implements. The ritual storehouse is a sacred building, so nobody can go inside. The curse will fall upon any who disobey. Any child would know that rule. However, just because they knew about it didn't mean they all believed in it. Although they were told they would be cursed, most of the kids actually enjoyed hearing the stories. They simply didn't believe it was true. However, Meon's reaction told me it was absolutely was. If they actually did that, of course something would happen to them. She was saying that if someone snuck into the ritual storehouse, that person should be killed.
私がこっちに帰ってきて以降、たまにミオンとは認識が食い違いますね。そりゃ私だって西宮殿が迂闊に入っちゃヤバいとこだってのは知ってますけど、あんな死に方しても当然だってほどヤバいとは思わないんだけど、私たちだってその程度の認識じゃなかったでしたっけ？それはシオンがよく知らないだけだよ。
Ignorant.
すみませんね、よく知らなくて。説明をいただいてもよろしいですか？そりゃシオンの言う通り、子供の世界ではヤバいとかたたりがあるとか言ったってどうせ迷信に過ぎないだろう。でも大人にバレたらかなり怒られるんだろうなって程度の認識だと思う。でもね、ひなみ沢の古老たちにとってはそんな甘いものじゃないの。
Meon explained to me how the elderly people blindly believe in Oshiro-sama and how sacred the festivals are to them. It's probably something the younger generations would never understand, but they're possessed by a very strong, deeply rooted devotion towards Oshiro-sama. Meon then went on to tell me about how sinful it was to violate the rule of the ritual storehouse. I just couldn't believe things like that were still going on even in the modern day. I couldn't even reply appropriately, but even if it was unbelievable, I couldn't ignore what I was hearing from my own twin sister.
なるほどね。でもさ、ミオン、たたりで一人が死んだらそれを相殺する意味で一人を生贄にするのがルールじゃなかったっけ？生贄の死体は出ない。なのに今回は二人とも死体が出ちゃってるんだけど、そのあたりはどう見る？
Meon doesn't know that besides Takano-san and Tomoki-san, Kechi and I also snuck into the ritual house. So I tried to read her a riddle.
確かにおかしいね。高野さんの焼死体は見つかっちゃいけなかったってことなのかな。本当は高野さんは失踪ってことになるのがパーフェクトだったのかな。
I mean, in the first chapter, her body was never found.
あるいは自信はないけど。何？根拠なんかいらないから言ってみてよ。怒らないから。
Meon hesitated a little first and started to speak.
西宮殿に忍び込んだのは実は4人とか。それでもう2人は生贄ってことで鬼隠しになってるんじゃないかな。
Oh boy. Oh, nice cut. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Meon's words were stuck in my head. If those two dead bodies were the result of the curse, before I continue on, this was something I realized like a while ago, but I didn't have time to say it. I think the biggest difference you can tell from the Sonozaki twins is when they change their other side. Both sisters have two sides to them. And it's very funny how their second side is complete opposites of each other. Meon's successor personality is cold and calculating, while Shion's demon side is controlled by emotion and passion, not by intellect, which is it's very interesting to think about. And I think that's one of the tidbits you can probably see in chapter 2. Do we see the cold I think we do see the cold side too. Well, we definitely see it in chapter 1, the cold side of Meon. I don't know in chapter 2. I don't know. If those two dead bodies were the result of the curse, then there should be 2 sacrifices to Kamoshiro-sama's anger. The 4 of us snuck into the shrine storage together. It was a simple equation. Did that mean that Kechi and I were in danger? Got drunk, fell asleep, and decided to stay overnight. Was that because of the alcohol? Or did someone put a drug in my drink? Sounded like me to get drunk and spend the night at the hag's house. Wanted to forget about what happened in that eerie storehouse so I drank too much. But it really was strange for me to get that drunk. Maybe. It was a good thing I woke up in the middle of the night. Could have been the one to wake up in a cell. Sometimes it's hard to recognize danger when you avoid it accidentally. Part of me wanted to just laugh at the idea, but another part felt frightened that I was so close to being in Meon's position. My thinking was correct. I wonder how Kechimara was doing right now. Didn't see him in any of the cells, but that didn't guarantee his safety. Takano-san and Tomoki-san had been executed. There was a possibility that Kechi could already be dead. But just like what happened to Satoshi-kun, it might only happen after a few days. When the sun rose, I was going to pretend to be Meon and head to her school. I was going to check if Kechimara was safe. If he had already disappeared, the enemy would come after me next. I'd have to be a decoy for myself. But if he was still safe, I need to keep my eyes on him. I was sure the enemy would come after that scatterbrain. If I became Meon, Shion would disappear. The enemy would think Shion had already been demoned away, and they'd concentrate on Kechi. If nothing happened to Kechi, that would also be fine. I proved that nothing would happen to me either. The hag was still sleeping in the wheelchair. I was fucking right. Ooh, yeah, baby, I was fucking right. Oh, that far-fetched idea I came up like 5, 6 episodes ago came fucking true, baby. Let's go. Another point on to me. Put it on the scoreboard. But yeah, I guess we're finally getting the reason why she decided to dress up like Meon, and yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. So what causes her to go into the whole murder spree? That's the question now. The hag was still sleeping in the wheelchair. I was going to interrogate her, but actually I wasn't expecting to learn that much. The woman, who was also known as Empress Sonozaki, probably wouldn't say a thing even her fingers were cut off. Meon, her successor, was the complete opposite. She spoke readily but didn't know too much about anything. Meon had said she was only a messenger, that someone else was taking care of problems on the other side. It was possible Meon had grown to be a good liar, and that she tried to deceive me with a straight face. But at the same time, I could see the hag not letting Meon get involved in the other side of the village. If I were her, I wouldn't have used Meon for that either. Unlike me, Meon was a nice person. Well, there were only ones and zeros in the world. She believed there were numbers with decimal points. In other words, she could never be cool. If the hag thought the same way as I do, it was very possible. The one who took care of problems on the other side, X, was the one who actually governed the curse of Oshiro-sama, who's probably the director, whoever the fuck that is. Still got nothing on him. Only mentioned once in chapter fucking 1, never heard of him again. If the hag became concerned about something, X would deal with it, either directly or indirectly. Or maybe the hag and X would discuss the details first. But did X really exist? If he did, his place in the village hierarchy was a lot more important than that of his successor. Unlike Meon, who was too nice, he was discreet, cool, and cunning. Furthermore, he was extremely close to the hag. Someone who would have a lot of contact with her just before it was time for the curse. Because of the way Tomiki-san died, it could be someone who regularly dealt with unusual drugs. He could be a member of a medical institution. The director of the Ire Clinic. Ire? In this isolated village, Ire was famous for opening such a beautiful clinic and for working so hard for the villagers' sake. The villagers liked his mature personality and really respected him. There's nothing scarier than a doctor who's also a murderer. If Ire was the person behind the curse, all the mysterious deaths could be explained. However, there was only a slim chance of Ire being X, the main reason being that the hag wouldn't trust him. Like many of the elderly, the hag doesn't like young people. I know she'd never trust him because of his age. Furthermore, she had openly criticized his behavior among the relatives once. Although Ire was famous, he was an outsider after all. He wasn't born here. He tried to maintain a good relationship with the villagers as the director of the clinic, but that was just on the surface. I couldn't even imagine the hag telling him about her worries or about the village's underside. If she was as suspicious as others as I was, then she only gathered trustworthy people to deal with that underside. The first people that came to my mind were the leaders of the three families. Leaving Rika-chama out, the head of the Kimiroshi family was a strong possibility. He was the only one who could advise Emperor Sonozaki. They were of a similar age, and everyone knew that they were very close outside the family councils. Furthermore, as a mayor, he often went into Sonozaki house just before Wanagagashi to discuss festival preparations. I could easily picture them talking privately. The one who executed the curse of Oshiro-sama, the one who murdered Takano-san and Tomiki-san, the mastermind behind the series of mysterious deaths that had been going for the past 5 years. Was he coming after me? Did he get to Satoshi-kun? When I thought about Satoshi-kun, I felt elevated. And we're finding out why Kimiroshi disappeared because she unfucking murdered them. Bada bing, bada boom, all the mysteries of chapter 2 getting solved, baby. Holy shit, this truly is an answer arc. I felt elevated. I was fearful of the possibly being this year's victim until just a moment ago. I was scared that X was after me. But when I thought about it, I realized whoever it was, this person had gotten Satoshi-kun. I looked so hard, but I couldn't find him. I almost forgotten about this enemy. For better or for worse, he was going to appear before me again. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find that enemy. But now he was trying to find me. That was it. I wasn't only being chased, I was chasing too. When I realized all this, I was no longer afraid of dying to the 5th year's curse. It had become a game. I wasn't only being threatened, I was threatening too. Now was the time to settle the score for Satoshi-kun. Now was the time to awaken passions that had grown weak over the past year. I could feel righteousness, indignation, and courage flare up within me. The only emotion that can defeat fear is anger. When my anger completely overtook my fear, I felt as if I were reborn.
おばあさま、そろそろ目を覚ましてくださいません。
And thus the demon awakens. I kicked her wheelchair rather violently, but that didn't wake her up either.
ひょっとして眠ったふりをしてやり過ごそうとか考えてません？
I grabbed her hair and pulled her head up, but even then the hag still stayed silent with a straight face. Then I noticed something. I looked for an appropriate torture device. They were all large scale, none of them being particularly handy. That's when I saw a cigarette lighter on the cushion in the tatami room. One of the relatives must have left it there. I tilted the lighter. A huge flame appeared. I turned the lighter off and went back to the hag with it.
見えてます？見えてない。これ誰の忘れ物かわかりませんけどね。ライターです。
I lit it in front of her eyes.
今からこれであなたの鼻を焼きます。嫌でしょ？私も嫌です。ですから寝たふりをやめてください。
There was still no response, but the flame went under the nose without hesitation. The tip of the flame touched the tip of her nose. The flame must have burned her nose hair. It smelled terrible. I was already certain, but I continued anyway. I brought the flame closer to her eye. Her eyelid didn't move one bit. The flame burned her eyelashes, making it smell awful again. I turned the lighter off and then felt her throat and wrist. Didn't feel any warmth. Didn't feel pulse either.
こいつスタンガンで。
Well, shit. So much for answers. There was no way she could pretend to be asleep while being burned. Even she could endure the pain, and one would effectually move the eyelids if a flame came close to the eyes. But she didn't. Turned the sink water on and aimed the end of the hose at the hag's face. The water pressure wasn't too high, but by squeezing the tip of the hose, it could make it squirt out. The water hit the hag in the face, but there was still no reaction. Shit. You've got to be kidding me. She's dead. The one who was at the center of everything is dead now. I knew she wouldn't talk, but I didn't expect her to end up dead. Never even thought of killing her. I walked around the room restlessly. Didn't feel guilty, but instead felt frustration with what I'd done. Come on, I need to calm down. What do I need to be afraid of? Calm down, stay cool. Calm down, stay cool. I could feel my brain starting to calm down. My emotions cooling down with it. She was my true enemy. It was just that I killed her before confronting her about it. Sooner or later I would have killed her anyway. She wouldn't have said anything in the first place, so there really wasn't a reason why I should have let her live. I didn't realize that until now, and that was why I got frustrated. My revenge for Satoshi-kun started with the unexpected death of my grandmother. It was such a strange feeling, like I was wearing sopping wet clothes. I replaced that feeling with anger. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forgive the hag for abusing the Hojo family, including Satoshi-kun, for so many years. She cornered him psychologically as well as physically. She didn't deserve an easy death from her stun gun. Picked up a whip that was hanging on the wall. The whip was designed to make sure the person on the receiving end got seriously injured. I swung it up and then down. The sound reminded me of when I was a child hitting things with a jump rope I pretended was a whip. But unlike then, I'd make a purple mark on the hag's face and reddish-black blood started oozing out. I swung it up and then down again. This time the whip hits her in the head. Her hair flew in the air. I saw a bunch of her hair on the tip of the whip. At the end of the bunch of hair there was a piece of her skin. It seemed the whip had whipped part of her scalp off. I continued to hit her with the whip, and didn't bother removing the hair beforehand. The tip of the whip was divided into many points, with each point having a fish hook on the end. Those hooks added to the speed of the whip not only scratched the victim but tore their skin as well. The hag's hair was all messed up and her face was getting bloody. She started to look like a real demon. I stopped the whipping. Not because my arm was tired, but because I couldn't stand the feeling of her hair on the tip touching me every time I swung the whip. I threw the whip at the hag. Breathing heavily, I realized I was covered in her hair. It almost felt like thousands of maggots crawling all over me. I brushed it off violently.
思い知ったか悪夢。
I put my hands on my knees and exhaled roughly. It was then that I noticed it. I perked up and turned around. There it is. The person who had been watching me since I snuck into the shrine storage. I sensed this person sitting in the tatami room enjoyed watching me torture my grandmother. An overwhelming emotion started to swallow me up. Tried desperately not to feel it.
いつからそこにいたんだか言ってくれればよかったのに。
It was just there. Just like Satoshi-kun, it was just there. It was extremely uncomfortable to have it just be there.
そっか。レナが言ってたもんね。あんたお社様ってのは。
I smiled broadly, and yet I could feel my body shivering.
冗談じゃない。あんたがお社様で、たたりは本当にお社様のたたりってわけなの？バーカ！誰が信じるかよ。へ？
It was just my imagination. It couldn't be the curse of Oshiro-sama. The curse couldn't be real. Everything was done by humans. They made everything look like it was a curse.
まあ、あんたが見たいってんなら勝手だけどさ。私は見物料を取るつもりもない。でも、私の邪魔をしようってんなら、あんただって容赦しないよ。
No matter what I said, nothing happened. It was like trying to communicate with an insect. It felt like I was staring at a spider in the middle of its web, and the spider was staring back. I turned to the hag in the wheelchair. Couldn't leave her body here forever. If I don't need to make her death known, then it should be quick. It's best if the body doesn't exist. Not even in this secret underground torture room. Phew. I exhaled to try to calm myself down. Oh, I remember now. When I was a little girl, Kasai used to love making me feel scared. He often told me scary stories about various horrible things. I recalled his story about the secret torture room of the Sonozaki family. According to the story, there was a well in the torture room for dumping bodies in. There was a pile of tortured corpses at the bottom of the well, and resentful moans could be heard echoing from there. And about halfway down the well, there was a different tunnel, which was a secret passage leading to the distant mountains. That bit was from Meon's telling of the story. It was probably an amalgamation of tellings from different relatives. The room was supposed to be a huge secret, but everyone got loose whips at the chance to have fun scaring the younger successor.
ミオン、昔親戚の誰かが言ってたじゃん。この地下の秘密部屋のどこかに隠し井戸があって、外へ出られる秘密の通路があるって話。さっきの音は聞こえてなかった？ばあさんを鞭で叩く音。
Meon didn't reply, but I saw her bite her whip.
大丈夫。あんたは叩かない。でもね、あんたが不愉快だとばあさんをもっと叩くかもしれない。今度は鞭なんかじゃなくて。そこの奥、暗がりにも牢屋があるでしょ。その中。
Meon pointed weakly. I walked down to where her finger indicated. A white bulb lit up the cell. It was a lot smaller than the one Meon was in. It was very shallow, and I didn't even need to open the door to see how tiny it was. Of course there's no well in there. I became angry, assuming that she lied to me, but after considering it, I didn't actually think she would at this point. I opened the door and walked in. I noticed something immediately. There was an opening right in the middle of the cell. This opening was naturally disguised. The way the locks and the shadows were positioned perfectly hid the well. The tip of the lock inside of the cell concealed the entrance. Unless you went in, you'd never notice. But it was such a shallow cell that nobody would even think of going in. Besides, the bars allow you to see the inside well enough. The cell is not even a few meters deep, so it would only take a glance to see everything. Nobody would think of unlocking the door and walking in. But walking in was the only way anyone could find the well. Furthermore, there were many cells in this huge cave. You would think that one of them was hiding a secret well. The inside of the well was dark, couldn't see anything. But every little noise I made produced echoes. Could tell this was a very deep well. Bought a flashlight from the torture room and shone it down the well. It almost looked more like a vertical tunnel. Obviously a man-made one at that. There were wedges in the wall like a ladder, and they looked as if they were inviting me to descend. It's kind of ironic that the secret escape route from the underground torture room ended up being a well that takes you even further down. You had no way of knowing whether it would take you to freedom or to hell. Furthermore, there were the tortured bodies of past victims at the bottom. You wouldn't be able to go down this well without hesitation. Nobody in their right mind could go down this well to look for a secret tunnel, hearing the voices of the dead all the while.
ミオンはあの井戸降りたことあるの？降りたくもない。それに関しては著しく同感。この秘密部屋の犠牲者たちが放り込まれた井戸になんか好き好んで降りたくはないもんね。
I went back to the torture room and then returned to the cave, pushing the wheelchair containing the hag. Meon screamed.
シオン、バッチャを落とすけ？落とすんじゃないよ。捨てるんだよ。もう死んでるしね。さっきの拷問で死んだんじゃないよ。多分ばあさんはスタンガンで死んだんだよ。心臓麻痺とかで。ひどい。なんなら死後の鬼ババの世話もする？私は構わないけどね。
Meon covered her ears and shook her head. Everything I said seemed to bother Meon. Her own life wasn't guaranteed at this point.
シオン、どうしてこんなことを。さーて、どうしてだと思います？
Nobody said anything for a while, but the silence was soon broken.
サトシ敵討ちってこと？敵討ちになったかもわからないけどね。いきなり後ろからバチンだったから、何が何やらわかんないうちにご臨終だったろうし。ねえミオン、今こうして思い返すと、私はやっぱりばあさんを殺すだけの理由があったように思うの。なぜかわかる？単にサトシ君を殺した張本人だからってだけじゃないよ。それは嘘をついたから。
I swapped the hag's head.
あんたも言ったよね。私が爪を剥がせば全て許すって。だから私は爪を剥がしたんだよ。3枚も。それでけじめがついたってことになったんだよね。でも約束は守られなかった。サトシ君はやっぱり消されてしまった。どうして？どういうことなの？
I continued to swap the hag's head. Her blood was all over my hand by then and felt gross. I tried to wipe it off on her clothes, but then her hair got on my hand. I went into the sink in the torture room and washed my hands with a brush. When I was done, I went back to Meon's cell.
あの時、サトシ君がいなくなってしまった後、あんたが来て言ったよね。サトシ君と私の関係はけじめがもうついてたって。そしてこうも言ったよね。サトシ君の失踪の理由は、園崎本家は何も知らないと。うん。嘘だ
！Wide, wide, 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 wide. My shouts echoed throughout the cave. I was breathing heavily. Felt like I used up all of the air in my lungs.
あんたが何も知らないのは本当だと思う。あんた自身、ばあさんに真の意味で信頼を得ていたかは怪しいからね。 でもばあさんが本当に私のけじめでサトシ君を許したかはわからないよ。アマちゃんのあんたに本当のところを打ち明けるわけもない。
I didn't keep her promise. She said she'd forgive everyone, but she lied. She didn't forgive. She didn't forgive Satoshi-kun.
嘘つき嘘つき嘘つき嘘つき嘘つき嘘つきかな返してサトシ君、返してよサトシ君、返して返して返して返して。
I kicked a hag's leg repeatedly. Each time I kicked, the wheelchair made a squeaky noise. I went out of breath and kneeled down. Meon was still covering ears and was now shaking. There were tears in her eyes.
怖がらせちゃったね。ごめんごめん。ミオンがミオンの言うように何も知らなかったならミオン安心して。でももしミオンも嘘をついていたなら仕方ない。その時はどういう目に遭わされても仕方ない。仕方ないよね。
Well, do indeed. So that chapter pretty much answered chapter 2. Except for that fucking ending. We still don't know about that ending. Probably will get answered here, but the majority of chapter 2 pretty much just got answered there. Yeah, so Shion's gone to the deep end, obviously. This entire chapter was basically a setup of why did Shion murder all those people in chapter 2? And well, now that we got here, you can understand now. You can't understand. Don't condone her actions, but you understand them. And how she got to this point. And well, did the Sonozaki family actually make Satoshi disappear? Was this mysterious ex-fellow, the undersider that deals with the underworld things of Himezawa, actually behind the murders of Osho-sama? We don't know. We still don't know. It could. That's the thing about Osho-sama's curse. Is that we're getting answers. We're getting major answers for specific chapters. And I think, honestly, that's great. But we still don't have the answers to the overarching ones. Such as, who the fuck is behind Osho-sama's curse? Who's actually behind it? Is it the Sonozakis? Shion thinks so. And look where she's going. She's fucking whipping her grandmother to death. But yeah, I think this is a good stopping point. If you guys enjoyed this type of content, hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, hit the like button. Want to tell me something? Put it down in the comments below. Want to check out the Discord server I hang out in or my Twitter? Check the description below. And yeah, it's been Voidlego. I'll see you guys next time. See ya!